Karl, you had a chance to take a look at this team out there. You talked to some of the guys. What are your initial impressions in terms of how everybody seems to be fitting in and what kind of offensive firepower you think they can provide?
Well, there's a lot of that. There's a lot of offensive firepower. I think I was most impressed by the ability of the Sandovals and the Ramírezes to kind of feel like they've been here for a long, long time. Their connection with Ortiz and with Pedroia, it's pretty easy because you know they're really good players, so everybody embraces really good players. It's not as if they traded for somebody and the team is wondering why they traded for or decided to pay for real good talent. But they fit in, and you can see that if this team gets off to a good start, it'll be a very fun clubhouse to be in. The personalities are as large as the physical people that they are. So I was really impressed with their ability to kind of connect, get along, have fun. But this is 36 hours into a spring training.
Now, in the outfield, we've got kind of a glut. We've got too many guys, not enough positions. There's been some talk that maybe it's Rusney Castillo who starts in the minors, and it's going to be Jackie Bradley and Mookie Betts fighting it out for that center field position. And you got the Shane Victorino situation. How do you see it shaking out? Maybe 1 month into the season, who's out there, who's not?
I think John went out of his way to remind everybody, including Jackie Bradley Jr., that he's a player on this team, and he hit about 400 in the spring last year. And we all fell in love with his defensive abilities, and not to forget about him. My guess is that Victorino starts in right, and they're using Hanley Ramírez in left. It wouldn't surprise me if Bradley Jr. has another spring like he did last spring, that he's the starter. I don't know much about Rusney Castillo. Alex Cora has worked with us, and he got a chance to see him down at the Winter Leagues, and he loves him. So it's a good problem to have. And I think that the spring training performance will dictate which guy starts in center field. Let's not forget, Victorino didn't play last year, so there's always the back and how fragile it may be. Hanley Ramírez hasn't been a picture of health, so I think depth, especially in the outfield with two corner guys that have had a history of problems here recently, makes sense to have. It wouldn't surprise me if Bradley Jr. is in center field.
Now, the ongoing storyline everybody's sick of talking about is 5 aces, no aces. What's the deal with the Red Sox pitching staff? I heard you talking about Rick Porcello a little bit earlier. Sounds like you're bullish on him. Why?
Well, I mean, we did. There's a graphic that we ran during our coverage. Since 1990, a pitcher aged 25 or younger, Porcello's fourth on the list of wins, and that includes Felix Hernandez, and he's on that list. So I think Porcello has been in the shadow of a Verlander for a long time. He's still a kid. He's still 25 years old. And to me, aces on this team can emerge. They don't have Lester. There is not that big-name guy. But Porcello, maybe it's him. Maybe it's Joe Kelly. Buchholz has the stuff to be that way. I think they're waiting to see if one of those guys emerges. They clearly have, they clearly have enough cachet in the bank talent-wise to go acquire one if they need to. So given an offense that feels like it's going to score 4, 5, 6 runs a game, if you have pitchers that give up 2, 3, or 4 runs, you're going to win most of those games. And the ace conversation, I don't think, is something that needs to be at the front now. Come October, that's a different story.
Lastly, David Ortiz went off in an epic rant today about the speed of the game changes. It's going to go, viral around the country pretty soon. Do you think that's going to have any effect on MLB in terms of them kind of reevaluating that foot in the batter's box deal?
I don't. I think that if we see a lot, I think you're going to see David pay a fine, and he's going to continue to do it. I think that there's no question that baseball wants to see the pace of play, meaning those types of things that Ortiz does and others, to be taken out of the game. It serves David really nicely to do what he does. It's made him a multimillionaire, a likely Hall of Famer, and he wants to continue to do that. He doesn't want somebody to change a routine that has served him so well. But baseball's clearly made this a front burner agenda item, and having your foot in the box is one thing that either he's going to have to get used to or he's going to have to pay his way out of. And there have been times where others have paid their way out of those problems. You've got a fine, it's going to cost you $100. You write a check and you move on from there. I understand why it feels like part of that is directed directly at David, and I understand why he'd be upset about it, but I don't think because he's upset or went on a rant that's going to change the direction of the pace of play rules.